So, Brett, if you were to give the Miss Congeniality sash to any of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 characters, who would it be?
Oh, it definitely Leatherface.
Oh, you think he's
Yeah,
a Miss
Bubba.
Congeniality?
Yeah, he's a really good dancer.
He is a really good dancer, and he does care about stretch. That's true.
Yeah, so I definitely he'd get the sash and the maybe not the crown. Crop top might get the crown.
I mean,
He might need a crown.
Crop Top. Is that his name? Crop Top? Chop
I think
Top?
so. Yeah.
Or
Oh,
Bo?
is it chop top or
I thought it was Bo.
I don't know.
So I actually would give the sash to Grandma.
Oh yeah.
She's like the grandmother of dragons. She is beauty and grace.
Is Grandmother of Dragons? Is that is that Game of Thrones?
Yeah, she's the mother of dragons. So I'm assuming that Grandma Sawyer is the grandmother of dragons. She kind of looks like her.
Yeah, that creeped me out when she was moving around a little bit at the end. That was so cool.
Oh no, really? I thought she was dead.
No, because he kept saying you killed her. And I think the implication was that she was like still alive holding onto that chainsaw.
Ugh, don't mess with people's grandmas. So let's start the show. This is... Should we say it together or should I say it?
You go for it, and I'll follow up.
Necromancer! We will or we won't get better at that. Today's episode is Texas. What does Texas mean to you, Brett?
Texas is where I live. That's what it means to me.
Oh, no shit. I live in Texas, too.
What? That's so crazy. Yeah, were you born in Texas?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
actually born in Houston. I'm a Texas first generation.
Gotcha. No, I had to move here. I moved here like most of the rest of Austin came here from New York.
So did you know that Miss Congeniality was actually shot in Austin?
Yeah.
Most of those hotel scenes are actually the Driscoll.
Oh, okay.
And then I think that the pageant itself, they filmed at the Long Center.
Oh, wow.
And then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, your movie, that was filmed in Dallas, my hometown, during a Texas OU weekend. Woo! I felt like...
This movie was shot in one weekend? That feels about right.
I don't know if it was shot in one weekend, but it takes place during Texas OU weekend, which I don't know why it's a Dallas thing. Maybe it's because they use the stadium in Dallas for the game. Somebody else who knows more about Texas OU weekend could tell me. But it's the big game between UT and OU.
What's OU?
Oklahoma University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
But UT is in Austin.
Yes,
So
but
they
the
just
game,
probably have a bigger
I think
stadium,
the
you
game
think?
is in Dallas. Somebody will hopefully
boy.
correct me angrily. But so we chose both of our movies with the mind that they were both in Texas. But I have a second hypothetical for you.
Okay.
If you were an alien and all you knew about Texas were these two movies, what would you think Texas was like?
Oh, Texas would definitely be... I mean, it's kind of like what we think of the Wild West right now, where it's just
Even in the
lawless.
2000s and the 80s, it's still lawless.
Oh, yeah, definitely lawless. People can just do whatever they want.
Everyone has a gun.
That's true.
You can buy 3 chainsaws.
That scene was great. But yeah, it's just like Murphy Brown says in Miss Congeniality, like everyone has a gun. Even her florist has a gun.
I
It's
believe that.
dangerous. Texas is definitely dangerous. I would not want to go there. if I was an alien and I saw these movies. I would be scared for my life.
Even with Miss Congeniality, I guess because there's also mad bombers in Texas too.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's just the idea that, there's scary stuff and Miss Congeniality, what's her name in the movie?
Gracie.
Gracie's trying to do her best and no one will listen to her. It seems like a place where just everyone wants to do whatever they want to do.
Stretch has that problem too, because she wants to bring that tape to Dennis Hopper right away, and he's like, get out of here. So nobody's listening to these women when they're spilling the tea. Yeah, I definitely think if I were an alien and this is what I knew of Texas, I would be terrified. And then I would also be curious because of it seems like there's lots of guns and chainsaws in Texas, but also a fierce love of barbecue.
Yeah.
And cooking.
Lots of food stuff.
Lots of food
jokes and
that seems to be like the main way to make fun of Texas is food and guns, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much why I came down here.
Because of the food and guns.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why I was born here.
Have you ever,
food and guns that makes you pretty randy.
Have you ever been to a chili eating contest or like a chili contest?
In my school, we had a chili cook-off every year at the school. And then I remember when I was in community college, my geology professor wouldn't stop talking about the Terlingua chili cook-off.
Whoa.
Apparently that's a really big deal in Texas. So yeah, no, we're serious about chili and serious about it not having beans in it.
Yeah, I'm not big on beans either. Maybe Texas
you're good for Texas chili.
Yeah.
All right, so Bret, I made you watch Miss Congeniality. I chose this movie because I mean, it is a Texas movie, but it also has one of my favorite rom-com actresses, Sandra Bullock, in it, and it's a makeover movie, which is a very popular thing in rom-coms. You have a lot of My Fair Lady riffs, and I think that this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, I agree. Seeing her go from a 0 to a 10 was pretty fun. And we got the great character of Vic. I really liked watching Vic.
Oh my god, Michael Caine. What a gilf.
I really liked seeing someone who's good at what they do, really kind of like try to have fun with the role. And he had a lot of good lines. Haven't seen a walk like that since Jurassic Park. That one stuck out.
That was a good one. Yeah, no, they give him a lot of great lines. Like a lot of the parts of the movie that still made me laugh, I think came from him.
Yeah. But I think just to jump right into it, that also begs the question of how did you feel about some of the treatment of some of that side of the pageant, or, his character is...
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at how this movie didn't age as well as I thought it would be, even though this is from the year 2000, so it was 19 years ago, probably made 20 years ago. A lot has changed in 2 decades, and I think the part that got me is how homophobic Benjamin Bratt's Eric Matthews was about Michael Caine's character. And I mean, hey, you should be so lucky if Michael Caine takes an interest in you, Benjamin Bratt. Like, I don't know who he thinks he is. You want to know something interesting? So there are a couple of other actors who were up for the role of Eric Matthews.
Okay.
And I don't know how these guys would have pulled this off, because that character, he didn't age well for me either. He was kind of a dick. Yeah,
the whole movie.
Yeah, he was, and he was only, it's Benjamin Bratt, and he's super sexy. So it was hard to reckon with that while also be like, God damn, this guy is such a dick. But he saves it because he's Benjamin Bratt. But originally, they had cast Matt Dillon as the Eric Matthews character.
Matt Dillon.
I don't know. Like, so do you think Matt Dillon and Sandy would have had the chemistry?
No.
I don't think so either. And then this is even worse.
Matt Dillon's a little too crazy, I think.
Yeah,
he's got too much of that.
I don't believe that he'd be a by-the-book player.
Edge. Right.
Yeah, like, no, not at all. And the other person they were interested in was, get this, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, that's your white whale, is it not?
Well, okay, so I do judge an actor based on whether or not he's willing to go the distance and star in a rom-com, whether or not he has, the balls to do it. Tom Hanks, amazing Oscar-winning actor.
Oh yeah,
has done some amazing rom-coms. He's like a no-hitter in the rom-com world. He can't go wrong. Whereas Leo, he's done Titanic, which I would call a capital R romance, but he's never done a rom-com. I think that's the reason it took him so long to win an Oscar. He could have been a little bit more accepting in different roles. Maybe we could have seen him as more of a leading man if he'd accepted something a little bit lighter.
Do you think now that he has his Oscar, he's going to be more open to stuff like that? Or do you think now that he has a taste of it, he wants more?
I don't know. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm just not sure that he's rom-com leading man material anymore.
Anymore? Because he's too old? Or he's too...
I mean, I wouldn't say he's too old because I'm not ageist. I love Michael Caine, for example. But I don't know. That's just not the type of characters he plays. Like, he seems like if he's not playing like the protagonist, then he's playing either a bad guy or a morally neutral character. That seems to be his wheelhouse these days. It's hard to imagine him as a Tom Hanks type, or, in, say, like Titanic, where he's kind of this, hopeful young man. So it's hard to imagine, though I would love to see something like, maybe like America's Sweethearts with him and Kate Winslet, where they're playing up their co-star relationship. I love something like that. Maybe they do a fake relationship for the press and it gets real.
Whoa.
You
want a meta movie? You want a meta Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, I want a meta Leo and Kate Winslet rom-com, even though I know that they're just friends, supposedly.
Right. So more about like the paparazzi and the tabloid aspect of a rom-com romance.
Oh yeah, I think that would be really fun. That's my pitch to Leo.
Yeah.
Somebody send it to him. But so do you want to get into a summary of the movie, or?
Yeah, sure. Am I doing the summary?
Of Miss? Yeah.
Of Miss Congeniality? Okay. So, yeah, so we start and we open up with, we open up with the origin story, right? Where she's a little girl and she's got to beat up the kid, and then the kid's like, now everyone thinks I need a girl to help me, and then she beats him up more. And, I mean, that was fine, right? Because we
get why Tracy is the way she is.
Right.
I mean, Gracie.
But then I think, like, some of that, like, little kids can kind of be sexist because they're little kids, but then some of that sexism spills into the rest of the movie, and it's like, oof, like you said, doesn't quite age that well. But we go from the origin story to the sting, where they're doing a sting on these Russian people, and this is where the movie kind of starts to, like, require some leaps of logic in terms of she does the right thing, right? This Russian guy is choking. She saves the Russian guy, but then what happens?
But she disobeyed Ernie Hudson.
She disobeyed a direct order, which was don't... Like, how could they not tell that he was choking? I didn't get some of that humor.
They didn't care because he's Russian.
I guess so. And then we get this thing about this citizen bomber is blowing things up.
Right, a serial bomber.
Right. And so Gracie and the whole rest of the team figures out that the next target is going to be the Miss Beauty pageant, Miss America beauty pageant.
Hey, it's a scholarship.
It's a scholarship program, not a beauty pageant. I liked some of those. It's always nice and easy to get those callbacks at the end.
Yeah. No, they definitely did some rules of threes there with those callbacks.
Yeah. Not yeah. Yes.
Oh.
But yeah, so the problem is she doesn't want to do it. Why doesn't she want to do it? It's because she's too much of a tomboy. She can't be pretty and glitzy and glammy and all that. So she says no, but they convince her to do it. It's going to be good for her career, right?
Right, and Ernie wasn't going to let her be on the team any other way. Like, Eric takes one for her to get her on the squad.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, I was kind of surprised that she was so about wanting to be on the team, but then the moment that she could be on the team, they were like, no, she doesn't want to be on the team.
Well, she just didn't want to be in the pageant.
Yeah, but still, she got to be on the team. Come on, she got to be the main person on the team. That's
this is
pretty
true.
cool.
Like, I think, yeah, and it does take some leaps to think that she would say no.
But it kind of also fits in with that, like, standard heroic hero's journey, like the refusal of the call.
Oh, yeah, you gotta refuse the call.
And all that stuff. So, we got some Luke Skywalker, I can't leave my home planet kind of thing going on. But then she starts meeting the girl. This is where the movie kind of, it kind of exited the realm of what I remembered about the movie. Because
when you go deep into the forest of the pageant.
Yeah, well, we don't really go that deep. We just kind of skim. We just kind of walk by, I think. A lot of it, I remembered a lot more about, because I had seen this when it first came out on, VHS back in the day, or DVD maybe.
They also played this movie a lot on TV. In the pre-streaming days, I think I saw most of my Sandy Bullock rom-coms just browsing TV. Like, I've probably seen all of them down to like early ones like Love Potion number 9.
Whoa.
That movie's not that great, but it's wild.
So yeah, we get into the like you said, the My Fair Lady aspect of it, where she gets made over. She's got to find her talent. She develops this glass rim spinning talent contest thing, but then she kind of brings she's got a cover for herself, because at one point she sees a guy with a gun. She dives off the stage. I thought that dive was pretty funny, like her full forced arms out, legs out.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Dive.
Flying squirrel dive.
Yeah, that was really good. But then, things start to go wrong. She starts to doubt herself more, and that's when the relationship with Benjamin Bratt starts to kind of kick up a notch, because they start to flirt and pull each other into the pool and get all wet and glistening around each other. But that's also when she starts to find out who the real killer is, which I don't have the name written down, but it's Murphy Brown, right?
Candace Bergen.
Right.
Yeah, it's Candace Bergen, and then her son.
Her son's name was Frank. I remember that.
Who plays your wife watches Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but I know you don't really watch that show. Frank, I recognized him. He's Paula's husband on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
I don't know if I've seen them. I know she has a bunch of coworkers. I've seen the coworkers.
Yeah.
I thought Frank would have been a really good opportunity for someone like Will Ferrell back in the day or something.
Oh, he would have made a great Frank. I mean, I think this guy does an okay job at Frank. He's just a total creep.
Yeah, I just thought that like seeing it was such a because I didn't remember that he was involved in the killing or anything. I thought like, man, Frank would have been such a good part for some kind of like early or late 90s comedian who's just kind of starting to kick up, someone from SNL or something who has something to prove, who maybe could have given the role just a little bit of spice. Frank has no spice, and I think like that's the perfect kind of character where if you have someone who's spiceless, Cast someone
they,
who's
they
hungry.
could have amped him up.
Give him some spice.
Do you think like Chris Kattan could have done it?
Oh my god. He might have been too old, maybe. I don't
Maybe.
know. I always think of Chris Kattan maybe as older
Candace,
than...
I'm not being fair. Candace Bergen isn't that old.
Right. So if they might have had to change it from son to like lover or something. But
like in what is it in like Tommy Boy?
Oh,
Where, like,
yeah.
What's his name?
Yeah, Rob
Good looking.
Lowe.
Yeah, Rob Lowe. Son boyfriend.
Yeah, that's a good call. Good call. But so Gracie finds out that Candace is going to blow up the pageant, and then everyone else is left because they caught the citizen, and Candace is of course not the real citizen. She's just the copycat version.
Right.
Then they get to the final showdown, and luckily Vic comes back, and Benjamin Bratt comes back, and everyone comes back, and
They believe in her.
There's this big showdown where Sandra Bullock, Gracie's trying to get the crown, and everyone's crying and fighting her, and she's
she
fighting
punches
them.
Miss Texas in the face.
Oh, it's great.
I did really love that scene. I think that still works really well.
Yeah, it is really funny. What's her name? What's the state?
Oh, Miss Rhode Island?
Rhode Island. Yeah, Rhode Island, just
she was
standing
great.
there crying. That was really fun.
And that song too. That song really stays with you. The Miss United States theme.
Yeah, it was. That sequence was really good. But of course, so they blow up the crown, but Sandra Bullock's able to throw the crown away, and then they arrest Candace Bergen, and they give the Miss Congeniality to Sandra Bullock, who sort of over the course of having to go undercover has like united all these catty girls together, and
she's learned
formed a bond.
She doesn't have as much internalized sexism because she was kind of mean to other women at the beginning of the movie.
Although something that the movie never really earns what it's trying to go for, I don't think.
You don't think so?
No, like at one point she says, "Oh, I met all these smart, terrific people." The movie never shows any of the contestants as smart. It only shows them as catty and dumb.
And then Miss Rhode Island answers that. But it's so hard because maybe she understands even if they sound dumb when they're in the pageant, that's not the sum total for who they are.
But they never show that.
I don't know. I mean, like when Miss Rhode Island says that her perfect date is, what is it, April
25th.
April 25th. And later she says, "Oh my God, I sounded so stupid. Like, I didn't even mean to say that."
Right.
Like, even, like, sometimes we blurt out things that make us seem really
But they never
stupid.
show the opposite end of that.
You don't think so?
They never show the
But they did say that she's like an astrophysicist.
They said that, but it's show,
she
don't
never
tell.
talks about
show.
it. That's also true.
They also, with some of the homophobia stuff at the end of the movie,
that got me.
They're like, "Oh, and by the way, I'm a lesbian. Woo!
Is that a producer in the recording booth? Is that what that's called? In the guy, like, you know how they always show in movies and TV shows the people.
I think he's the director. He's calling the shots. Cut to camera 2.
I can't believe he's like, cut away. It makes no sense. And yeah, that was one thing where I'm like, this is definitely the year 2000 versus 2019. As far as like the meter for how we're reacting to homosexuality.
Do you think they overcompensated in that regard because they were trying to hit the male market? Like they knew that guys were going to come see this movie because their girlfriends and wives would drag them to the movies.
Yeah, and why her FBI coworkers were such pigs.
Right. But it's okay that they're pigs.
Yeah,
because at the end, Benjamin Bratt learns a lesson, and he's like, "Hey guys, she's an FBI agent. Come on." So like that part didn't bother me as much.
That's true
because there's a lesson there.
I don't know. I keep wondering if this movie were made in 2019, would her romantic interest be Benjamin Bratt or would it be Miss Rhode Island? Because they had a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
So Are we ready to talk about your Miss Congeniality horror pitch? Because I'm really excited to hear it.
Yes. Oh boy, here we go. So in this one, I chose to make my Gracie character a cop instead of an FBI agent.
Ooh, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I know that this is like a super stickler thing, but one thing that bothers me in movies is when they have the FBI conducting arrests. And the truth is, the FBI consults law enforcement, but ultimately law enforcement still makes all of the arrests and are the people that go in and actually, cuff the people and read them their rights. This whole thing in movies of FBIs being the people who arrest, it usually never happens. They really mostly work as consultants.
Gotcha.
I don't know why I care, but it I don't know.
It makes sense for the movie. That's one of those things where it's like Gravity, speaking of Sandra Bullock, in Gravity, where it's like she goes from the one space station to the other, and I know Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, those space stations aren't even close together. It's like, okay, yeah, but do I want to see her survive the movie? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna throw away a little bit of logic.
This is true. And for movies,
I want to see my main character arrest the bad guy. I don't want to see some Joe Schmo come in at the end. Who's this schmuck coming in?
Random cop
reading
is like...
the rights while Sandra Bullock just stands there going, yep, you got all the words down.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so my Gracie's just a cop who wants to join the FBI. So this is going to be her big shot to do so. It's basically, this is a beauty pageant, and my pitch for this one isn't going to be as strong as my pitch for the Texas Chainsaw remake. This is going to be, basically people are dying in the pageant, and the beauty pageant comes to the cops, the local cops, saying, hey, we got to keep this under wraps because we don't want to draw attention to ourselves. I'm going to keep my killer the same, which is the Candice Bergen character, so she's like in charge of everything. But it's more about she's just jealous at these young girls for wasting their looks, and she never got to win, so she's just upset and mad. It's more of like a basic revenge against the girls and their beauty instead of...
She's got that Snow White syndrome.
Yes. So... this whole thing is basically just going to be like a giant episode of Scooby-Doo, because in Scooby-Doo it's always like, hey kids, come investigate this thing happening on my creepy haunted carnival, and then it's like, you were really doing it the whole time. So the people who are responsible for bringing the cops in to investigate are really the ones responsible for the crimes. So that's the big thing, is that the Act 1 is basically the beauty pageant coming to Miss New Jersey. The Gracie character is an undercover cop. The second act is going to be Gracie hanging out with the girls. And I want to see a lot more of their talents beyond the superficial. So I want to actually see them use their talents and why they need the scholarship money. I want to see how they do that, because at the end, during Act 3, they're going to create this Rube Goldberg sort of, in Scooby-Doo, they've always got that...
Like a
Rube
Home
Goldberg.
Alone setup?
Yeah. It's going to be like Final Destination, where they create this really complicated trap using all of their talents.
To get Candice Bergen?
But not their superficial talents.
With flaming batons.
Yes. Well, right, but the batons, if you use certain chemicals, can make the color,
And then the opera singer breaks a glass with a really high C.
Yeah, but the glass is on top of something else, balancing something else, so that when the glass breaks, the balance board sort of shifts in one favor, and then a bowling ball falls down.
I love it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of close calls when... and they can use their forensics to find out who the killer is. The girls actually are more assistants to Gracie than the cops.
So this is kind of like Ocean's, I forget what it's called, but the women's Ocean's.
Yeah, Ocean's 8.
Ocean's 8, but pageant edition.
Correct. Here's going to be one of my favorite parts. Is the FBI has to keep making excuses for why all these deaths are happening. Because there are going to be deaths and there's going to be straight up murder scenes. But the community at large has to remain oblivious.
There's a cover-up?
Right. So the cops are covering up the crimes so that they can find out who the killer is better later. I want to create this sort of body examiner that they call out to each crime scene. And this body examiner is not going to be a real body examiner because, again...
Is it Frank? Or is it Michael Caine?
What, the body examiner?
Yeah. Is he any of our guys from the previous version?
I'm going to create a whole new character.
Oh, okay.
Stick with me. The cops are going to go to a local community college and find a creative story professor who is in charge of night classes and who used to do theater in high school, and they're going to create this character to come to all the crime scenes, and he starts out, and his whole job is just to basically like justify how this crime scene was really an accident. So, when he first gets here, it's like some of my crime scenes are going to be like a suntan booth. One of the ladies gets like locked in a suntan booth and the thing gets turned all the way up. That's going to be
like Final Destination?
Yes, just like Final Destination. But it's going to be a killer actually locking them inside.
Got it.
That's going to be Miss Florida, right? The Sunshine State is going to be the suntan booth lady.
Nice pun.
I got a deep fryer lady, gets her face shoved into a deep fryer. Is that
Texas?
No, that's going to be Miss Idaho for the French fries.
Ooh, yeah.
I've got a mechanical bull for Texas. They're at a party, they're at a bar, and the mechanical bull, and the killer spills a drink on the controls for the mechanical bull, which causes it to go wild, and it flings Miss Texas across the...
Oh, no.
Flings her across the bar
Bergen.
onto the Longhorn.
Murphy Brown.
Onto the Longhorn horns, right?
Oh.
So she gets skewered. So that's Miss Texas. Hook 'em horns. Plastic surgery, a bunch of collagen injected into someone's face is going to be Miss California, and then someone's going to get like stuck inside a freezer, and that's going to be like Miss Alaska. So this body examiner guy is going to have to be in charge of creating these elaborate stories for like, well, actually, this could have happened via an accident because of this and this and this. And at first, he's stumbling his way through it, because he's just making it up off the top of his head. But by the end of the movie, when he gets to a crime scene and he has to create a thing, he sort of goes off on these Shakespearean rants, like these soliloquies about
slings and arrows,
life and death. And the thing is, all the police around him love it. They all love it. So they're all applauding him.
What does Gracie think of this?
Oh, Gracie's not really there for it because she's too busy getting stuff done.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's not part of that more bumbling side of the cops. She's not part of the cover-up side of the cops. She's with the girls discovering the talents and,
trying to
actually solve, getting fingerprints.
Okay.
One of the beauty pageant people can be a linguist. So, that's how they caught the Unabomber was like through linguistics. So,
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah. They caught him because Ted Kaczynski wrote this whole paper, and then they analyzed the paper he was writing letters to his sister and stuff, and so they analyzed the forensic linguistics. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, then the final scene is they rig this device so that when they rig an interceptor device so that when Candice Bergen presses the button, instead of the crown blowing up, the device sort of reroutes the signal and causes the Rube Goldberg machine to go off, and then the whole thing blows up in her face. And I don't know. How it ultimately happens is a bunch of acid and glitter gets spilled on her. So she ends up like melting and sparkling in front of the crowd. And
she's beauty and she's grace.
And that's it goes into the name of my movie, which I figured I can't call my movie Miss Congeniality because this movie doesn't center around someone mean who has to learn how to be nice. And for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, was like, I can't call my rom-com Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
I gotta say, I actually only did a rom-com for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I didn't write a horror for Miss Congeniality.
Oh, okay. But I'm gonna call this movie Glitz and Guts.
Glitz and Guts?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So you don't have a horror movie for this
No,
one?
I just did the rom-com take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I gotcha. Well, I'm very curious to hear what you have.
Oh, well, first, before we get into that, I want to ask you, who would you kill from Miss Congeniality?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I hate to say it, but I think I might kill Miss Rhode Island.
Really? Is it because of her terrible hot chocolate?
Yeah, she comes in and she's got this, like, my world famous hot chocolate, which is kind of a funny line. But I just feel like I don't so much want to kill her, so much as I feel like they didn't use her to her fullest. I feel like no one in this movie...
She's a good actress. Helen Burns, I think is her name.
Oh, I don't know.
But yeah.
But I feel like no one in this movie is really used to their fullest. And again, like, at the end, her winning and her... I don't know. I really didn't like her. I just wanted more. I just wanted more from her character.
I will say that those social situations with really nice people like Rhode Island do make me very anxious. So I can understand why some of the girls just noped right out of there when she came with the hot chocolate. But like Gracie, I would have let her in. I don't think I would have had a choice. Would you have let her into your hotel room, or would you have slammed the door in her face?
I don't know if I would have slammed the door in her face, but if someone came knocking and wanting to share a mug of hot cocoa,
I can't say no. She just those puppy eyes.
I want to say that I would say no, but in reality, I probably would have said, yeah, you can come in.
I would actually, I can't decide if I would want to kill Frank or Miss Hawaii. I felt like Miss Hawaii was kind of mean,
but they were also really mean to her.
That's true.
She was the one who got made fun of the most, and it was pretty. I don't know if racist is the right term, but they were very mean to her.
I understand why Hawaiians hate mainlanders, but at the same time, they live in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that Miss Hawaii probably earned her rudeness. So, yeah, I would kill Frank.
But she also was kind of rude from the beginning without any
prompting,
so maybe not. Either way.
How would you have killed Miss Hawaii in your movie?
Ooh, good call. Probably would have had to do some kind of melting, some kind of like lava melting.
Ooh, what about luau?
A luau themed like
death?
Like hanging from a lay.
Hanging from a lay, or bury her in the ground on some hot coals. Like they think that they've got the pig for the luau, but it's really Miss Hawaii.
Right, yeah, stuffed apple in the mouth, stuffed and barbecued like a pig.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really inspired by the cooking methods of Drayton Sawyer from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes. Speaking of which, do you want to get into Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
Let us get into it. This movie was... It was... I know I like to say it was wild a lot, but yeah, it was wild.
That's why I picked this movie, to be honest. I heard that this movie was like one of those cult classic kind of classics.
It's very silly, but in a way that I really liked.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I was really digging most of this movie. Most of it worked for me.
I think that what worked for me was anytime they had Bo or Chop Top say anything, I think him and Drayton got some of the best, funniest lines.
Which one's Drayton?
The guy who cooked the chili.
The cook?
Is he their dad or their uncle?
Yeah, I didn't know, because they kept...
Is he their uncle dad?
I think we can call him Uncle Dad.
Uncle Dad. So yeah. Uncle Dad Drayton. Yeah, he got some really fun lines, and so did Bo. I thought that they were really great. I was, like I told you earlier, I was confused by some of the movements of Leatherface. He did kind of like a ferret war dance before he hit her with.
He's
tried
very
to go after her
animalistic in this movie. I like when he's chainsawing against the metal door, and he has no concept of like, my chainsaw's not working here, so he just holds up the thing and he's just shaking it like.
It took him a while to figure out that he could go through the other door or through the other wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's quickly get into the summary of this film, because I think if we just lay out the story, it just sounds even crazier.
Sure.
So 13 years after the events of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they haven't caught anyone for those deaths, and they've basically been ruled an accident. Everybody's forgotten about them. The family is gone. Now it's Texas OU weekend. Dallas-Fort Worth DJ Stretch is taking caller requests, and then these two douchebags call in. And I don't know what this is. They're just riding around a country road. They're certainly not on 35 between Austin and Dallas, because there's way more traffic, but they're just shooting out road signs, acting all buck wild.
They took the scenic route.
Yeah, they took the scenic route up to Dallas.
This scene was really great because it really established the fact that, like, okay, we know that the killers are going to have to come and start killing people. And this was a great way to kind of get us on the killer side.
Oh, yeah. I was ready for these chads to die as soon as I saw them.
Yeah.
And so they decide to play chicken with this pickup truck, and they think nothing of it. But later, that pickup truck follows them while they're still on the air with Stretch, and they get murdered by Leatherface with a chainsaw, all while Stretch is listening to this.
And this must be one of those things where, like, sometimes if I watch a movie that takes place in the past, like Heat or something, where there's a lot of, like, pagers and cell phones and phone booths.
Oh, yeah, he had a car phone.
Yeah. But there must be something where, like, you couldn't just hang up on someone because the line would still be crossed if they hadn't hung up.
I mean, after watching however many seasons of Frasier, I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that LG, is he her producer or her editor?
Yeah, we'll say producer.
So LG, the guy who helps produce the
sort
radio,
of Slim Pickens,
he just doesn't know what all he does is he spits, and he clearly doesn't understand how to end a call on the radio.
Yeah.
I wonder, did she just give him a job because they're friends, and he really just does nothing in that studio?
I saw it more as like this was sort of the poor station.
Yeah.
And that, like, you know, they're trying their best. Like she said, she wants to do bigger and better. And so she's at the poor station right now, and she wants to go to maybe one of the bigger stations. So I just saw it as maybe like a technical glitch. But they glossed over it in such a way where I was like, I'm just going to chalk this up to it being a thing instead of them inventing something just so that they could have...
Yeah. Now, I mean, you kind of have to. You can't dwell on it. So then Stretch tries to take a recording of the murder to this guy Lefty, played by Dennis Hopper. And Lefty has been looking for the chainsaw murderers for the last 13 years. I think they explained that he is best friends with the father of one of the victims.
Yes.
Is he in the police
he's
force?
Related to the father, didn't they say? He was Frank's uncle.
He's related to one
Frank
of the people who died.
Frank
in
is the kid in the wheelchair in the first movie. So later, when we see someone in a wheelchair, and he says Frank.
Oh, and he thinks that's Frank because they took all their furniture with them from the old house, including Frank.
Yes.
The Sawyer family.
Right. Yeah.
Can't forget Frank. So she takes the tape to Lefty, and Lefty turns her away and is like, this tape is useless to me, which I think is just crazy.
Although he does have this really badass monologue about how he's got the perfect willingness to die, and the enemies live off of fear, but he has no fear left because he's accepted death as like the final answer to his problem here. I thought that was really badass coming from Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, now he's got some shades of Dr. Loomis for sure.
Oh, yeah, I wondered if, I was going to ask you about that. Do you think Dennis Hopper watched Halloween and said, I want to do that one day?
100%. I don't know if he was like, I want to do that someday, but I definitely feel that the way he performs is a bit Loomis inspired. But then you see his performance in a movie like Blue Velvet, and you're like, is Dennis Hopper just cray?
Yeah, I think he's just crazy. But like Halloween, I think he probably watched Halloween and said, I could do that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm willing to believe that's the case. So
here's another thing real quick before we move on. So in the chase scene, the reverse, I like that sort of reverse chicken scene at the beginning. They're on a bridge, and you kept mentioning family, how this movie's all about family. Family.
It definitely was a Fast and the Furious moment.
So there's a very famous scene from one of the Fast and the Furious movies. I think the sixth or seventh one, about a runway, the world's longest runway, where like this runway, it's like a 15-minute scene where they're driving at 90 miles per hour for 15 minutes straight. And it's like, okay, that runway must be like 26 miles long. This bridge must be 26 miles long because it is the world's longest bridge.
It's a bridge over Lake Lewis. I don't know.
But yeah, I thought that was funny. Before we move on, while we're talking about Lefty and this sort of like really well-respected actor, this sort of really crazy actor, do you think there's an actor from today who could do something like this, who could be in a really B movie but bring this level of like professionalism that would because Dennis Hopper sort of is like, that's what everyone talks about when they talk about Texas Chainsaw, is they talk about Dennis Hopper. So who do you think from today could sort of like class up a really B movie like this?
Oh, I know the guy. Hold on while I look up his name.
I think, and this is just, I don't know if he could do it or if it's just me wanting him to do it, but speaking of Leonardo DiCaprio, your boy, now that he's won his Oscar, one of the things I really would like to see Leo do is go out and sort of take some of those chances, like a Texas Chainsaw 2 movie. Because, let's be honest, a lot of his Oscar bait type movies,
I think that's what he's doing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's probably
is
what he's
taking
doing.
a chance?
Or not necessarily taking a chance,
Oscar
but
bait.
he's playing a Dennis Hopper-esque character where he's like kind of this lawman in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't know. I haven't really looked into the movie.
Is he playing a lawman or is he playing an actor?
I don't remember, but he's playing somebody involved with the Manson murders. So, like, I think maybe he's getting more towards roles like that. But it's a
Tarantino movie, so
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like most everyone is going to say yes to Tarantino.
Just by virtue of it being Tarantino makes it Oscar safe. Oh, and then Hollywood loves Hollywood movies. So,
that's true.
Yeah,
they do love movies about Hollywood. But I would like to, Hollywood. If I could have like any sort of like Hollywood Christmas gift, I would love for Leonardo DiCaprio to give us a movie where he's just really unhinged in something that's clearly never gonna try to even win an Oscar.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that almost as much as I would love him and Kate Winslet in my rom-com vision.
He's got to start.
Why not do both, Leo?
Yeah, come on, man. Maybe those movies could be the same movie.
Ooh,
an unhinged,
a movie within a movie?
Yeah, like an unhinged Leo performance in a rom-com.
So the actor I'm thinking of is more of a character actor. He's not like super famous like Leo, but I think the British actor Robert Carlyle could totally pull it off. Do you know who he is?
No, not off the top of my head. I probably would if I saw
I think
him.
if you saw him, you'd know him. Most people know him as playing Rumpelstiltskin on Once Upon a Time, but he's had a lot of different roles. He was in a really funny rom-com called The Full Monty, where he becomes a male stripper. But this guy can do anything, and I definitely think he could play like an unhinged Dennis Hopper-like part.
I can see that.
You know, he's one of those fade into the role types.
Yeah, that's a good pick. So we...
Oh, and he was also in Train Spotting, too. He was the crazy guy in Train Spotting.
Yeah, that's
his friend
who
beats people up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we met Dennis Hopper, and he turns away Stretch.
And while... So he turns her away, and then we cut to Texas OU chili cook-off, and this is where we see our first member of the family. Was Drayton in the first movie?
I don't think so.
I thought I remember him being in the first movie because they get tricked by someone who seems like they're a normal guy,
right.
But then it turns out he's part of the family, and it's like, tricked you, haha. Gotcha. Gotcha journalism.
I've seen the first movie a bunch, but I did not rewatch it in preparation for this.
Neither did I, but I thought I remembered him. And it's never explicitly mentioned, but are we meant to assume that his chili is people?
Yeah.
Yeah, his chili is definitely people. Why do movies assume that food made out of people is going to be irresistibly good? I feel like any horror movie that features cannibalism, human never tastes bad. It always tastes delicious.
I think that's perfectly within the cartoonish realm of this movie.
Of course.
I don't know if this is the first one to really do it, where everyone's going nuts for humans. I never saw Soylent Green. In Soylent Green, was everyone like nuts for Soylent Green, or were they just like, it's food?
I don't know, but like I feel like in movies I've seen that feature cannibalism, and in the one Scary Story to Read in the Dark that featured people sausage, if you read those books, you know the one. It's always good. It always tastes good. People always taste good. Maybe it's in the preparation, though, because he smokes them before he grinds them up in his chili.
Yeah,
and
it's
I've
not
always
just
thought
the people.
If you were going to cook people, you'd have to tenderize them. So smoking seems like the ideal method.
Yeah, he's got his methods down. He's really good at it.
And he has Leatherface helping him.
And how can you go wrong? I mean, that guy is a real pro at dismantling humans.
So while he wins the chili cook-off for his human chili, Dennis Hopper goes, in probably my favorite scene in the movie, to the chainsaw store to buy some chainsaws. And he buys, I feel like it was like getting the equipment in an RPG. Like he goes to the weapons store and he gets one broadsword or one broad chainsaw, and then he gets two smaller dual wielding chainsaws.
Right.
So I guess this is another thing that we're supposed to assume is just true about Texas, that the chainsaw store owner would watch him do all that stuff with the chainsaw where he's clearly not using it to cut wood, and then let him leave with 3 chainsaws.
And not only is he watching it and this guy clearly doesn't know how to use a chainsaw, but he's into it. He is really into it. At first he's like, like he's kind of a little concerned, but the more Dennis Hopper gets into it, the more he gets into it. And I like that violent imagery of like the wood chips flinging up into his face like blood.
Oh yeah.
But it was just wood. It was really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought that was great. So then Lefty has a change of heart, goes to the station, tells Stretch that she should play the tape on the air.
A snuff tape.
Yeah, a snuff tape of people getting murdered by a chainsaw, and this is somehow going to convince the police to take notice about this case and not believe that it was an accident.
Right.
And then here's what happens instead. The family hears the broadcast. Bo and Leatherface show up at the station, and while Bo kills, or he doesn't kill him, but he knocks out LG, Leatherface chases Stretch around the station, and then we get this amazing meet cute, I guess is what you would call it.
Yeah.
Where Leatherface comes through the wall into the storeroom, and then Stretch tells him, "You're really good." And when she says that, Leatherface doesn't kill her. Instead, he strokes her with his chainsaw while I'm pretty sure he jerks himself off. I don't know if he finishes, but he definitely started.
The way I interpreted it was that he definitely finishes, but I don't. Is
that why he started?
He just started
crashed.
going nuts. he literally went nuts, right? So does he actually touch himself, or I just felt it was more like just the excitement alone was enough to make him sploosh.
I think that there was definitely some second base action.
Okay.
Or I don't know, maybe the chainsaw stroking was second base for him on her.
Right.
But yeah, I do think
this is where the movie lost me a little bit, because
this is where it gained me.
I was on board with everything about this movie up until
the meet cute.
She starts going, "You're so good, you're so good." And it was just a little bit too much for me, but I was still like, I wasn't turned off by it, but I was like, all right, I get what you're going for.
Look, just because you're not kink same as Leatherface doesn't mean you can kink shame him.
Listen. Him running around the office, destroying it, and then thrusting into the air with the chainsaw like a pelvic thrust, that was maybe a little bit too on the nose for me. But
I don't know. I didn't really understand the metaphor until he did that.
But I think it was almost like I really liked the animalistic side of Leatherface, and when they humanized him, but they humanized him in such a cartoonish way. I thought that there was still a way to probably do it in a really creepy way. Like, I really like when he puts the face on her later. And so there's this really creepy humanizing moment.
Oh, I love that part. No, I think that this is a problem with horror movie sequels where they kind of try to turn the monster into an anti-hero.
Right.
It works in the Terminator.
Yes.
Terminator 2 does it perfectly. Hellraiser 2 kind of makes Pinhead into a little bit of an anti-hero. Success there. They try to make it happen here, and it's just not working for me necessarily. I feel like they never tried to do that with Halloween and Michael, though. Like, he's just a villain to the end. But I do think it is creepy to have Leatherface be interested in her, but the idea that he could actually save her, it just, sometimes I believe it, like in Alien versus Predator, when the Predator and Sanaa Lathan kind of have a thing. Yeah, I buy it, but not for this movie.
But I do like how he keeps her hostage and stuff. But before you move on with your thing, just Bill Moseley as Chop Top.
Oh, he was so good.
Him with the lighter and the wire hanger, and him scratching his scalp.
Oh, it was so disgusting.
But then his wig comes off, and you see that it's metal. So the reason why is because he's got this itch that he can't scratch, so he has to like heat up. It was. And then him hitting his metal part and like non-flashback. It was like the perfect mix.
Best lines.
It was so good.
I think I put it down. Like, he says something that I thought was just hilarious. Oh god. Oh, lick my plate, you dog dick.
Yeah.
I like that line a lot.
I did not like how they kept calling Leatherface for the first half of the movie.
I don't know if his name is Leatherface or Bubba.
Because I liked how they called him Bubba later. Once Uncle Dad...
Their parents are hippies.
Yeah, once Uncle Dad starts calling him Bubba, then Chop Top starts calling him Bubba. But I did not like at the beginning of the movie how they referred to him as Leatherface. Because it felt a little too, like, it felt like they were trying to sell action figures.
Oh yeah, no, we're definitely getting some promotional toys with this movie. Not in the Happy Meal though. So this is another part of the movie that confuses me. After almost dying in the studio, she decides to follow Bo and Bubba, or Leatherface, back to, I guess it's an abandoned historical theme park.
Right.
Is where they're living now.
I was confused about... I really liked the kick-ass sort of take-charge nature of Stretch.
It looks like they just took up the old set from the Goonies, and that's where they were living.
I liked the sort of idea that they were nomads in the movie.
Well, they had to leave because of the first movie. They didn't want to get caught.
But then it seemed like once we actually saw their lair, it seemed too well lived in to be a sort of nomadic adventure. So I didn't know if this was like their home base and they were like sprawled out through Texas. But I kind of like the idea of them being nomads, just going from city to city and chopping up a few people, selling their chili, and then moving on.
I mean, Uncle Daddy Drayton has a food truck, so I definitely think
it was cool.
That's way before it was cool, and that could be how they're pulling in some of that income. But yeah, so she follows them.
And I thought she knew that LG was kidnapped, because I thought she saw him in the back of the truck. But later she says, "Oh, they got you too." And I was confused by that, because I was like, didn't you follow them there? Because I thought that was one of the reasons. But the real reason is she knows these people are dangerous and need to be stopped. So she's going to go follow them and find out where they are so that then she can tell the cops, I think.
I guess so, but I mean, I don't know. She's more of a risk taker than I am.
Definitely.
So she goes.
She's a badass.
Yeah, she is. Stretch is just taking the law into her own hands because none of these men will listen to her. She goes, and then Lefty catches up with her, and right as he catches up to her, she falls through a hole into, I guess it's the smokehouse.
But Lefty also says, "I'm sorry, darling, I used you."
Oh, because I kept thinking, like, he's really bad at saving people. He does not give a shit if she gets taken by them.
Well, I think he does, but I think the idea here is that Lefty knew that the killers would come, and that once the killers left,
so he
would track them down. I think that's because the plan was that he was just going to go in and get revenge and kill them all. I don't think he wanted the cops to come anyway. Because he just wanted revenge. He didn't want justice. He wanted the ultimate justice. That
piece of shit.
So he used her, which is really sloppy of the movie. It really, the logic of it really falls apart. But if every movie is a balancing act and you have to sort of sacrifice a little bit of logic for Dennis Hopper going nuts, chainsawing down this old
It just
park,
sounded like they wanted to do...
I'll take it.
They wanted to do whatever they had to do to get to him chainsawing the park. They were really thrilled to get a chainsaw in Dennis Hopper's hands, and they just were like, let's get to here. So she falls down. Yeah, she falls through the hole. He walks in another entrance and just starts chainsawing the shit out of everything. He says at one point, this is my favorite line of his, "This is the devil's playground."
It's so great. Yeah, when he kicks the wall and all the guts come out.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh my god." And then we get what you mentioned, one of my favorite scenes too. Leatherface finds Stretch and he dances with her. He puts a skin mask on her and a cowboy hat, and they have a cute little dancing moment together.
And I like how she really is treating it like he's an insane person, and she's not trying to say no to him, but she's like, "Listen, this isn't going to work out." She's like trying to break up with him.
Trying to let him down
easy, yeah.
They have a connection, though. She can't deny that.
That's true. Yeah. And so how did you feel about LG still being alive after his brains being bashed in, after being half dismantled?
This is another problem I have with some horror movies. Another one that does this is there's a Korean movie called I Saw the Devil.
Yeah.
Where it seemed, have you seen that one?
Oh, yeah.
That's another movie where head trauma just does not count.
Right.
Where somebody could be bashed in the head, and be killed normally 100 times over, and then somehow they're still alive. And I was pretty certain that they had killed LG in the studio.
Easily in the studio, before they even kill him again in the studio.
Yeah.
Because they bash his brains in, and then we cut back to him, and he's still alive, and he's still getting his brains bashed in. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know either, but I think they just want to give us a moment of him without his skin on his face. And,
right.
And you think maybe he's going to kill her, but then he sets her free.
Yeah. I was really tense in that moment.
That confused me and was tense too. So she gets free, but then runs right back into the family again. Oof. They knock her out, and then she wakes up at the dinner table. Now, I will say that my favorite moment in any Texas Chainsaw Massacre scene is dinner with the Sawyer family.
Yes.
I forgot to make dinner a part of my pitch, but maybe I can change it up a little bit. But yeah, I love the Texas Chainsaw dinner scenes because it's like Thanksgiving with your relatives on steroids. And I love Grandpa. What do you think about Grandpa?
I thought he's great. That character is in the first movie, right?
Yeah, in the first movie, he bites her finger.
Oh, right. Yeah, because they cut her finger and he's biting it or something.
Yeah, and he sucks the blood out of it. I honestly think nothing really beats that first dinner scene, but I don't know.
Saying Grandpa's a one-hitter and then him with the hammer trying to do
He's
it over
not
and
a
over.
one-hitter.
I thought that was great.
That was highly inaccurate, a very overestimation of his skill set. I did actually, the one moment where I physically gagged was when Grandpa spit up and they had a close-up of his face. That made me want to throw up. So yeah, no, they definitely got me good with the gross out factor, even though some of the jump scares made me laugh. And so it ends with Dennis Hopper and Leatherface chainsaw fighting. Yep. And Bo chases Stretch up to a tower where we find out Grandma is ensconced on a little shrine throne. She's also holding a chainsaw. Stretch grabs the chainsaw from Grandma. Bo falls off the roof or the ledge, and it ends.
But not only does she grab the chainsaw, as she's trying to start it up, he's slashing and hacking at her.
Oh, he's clawing at her.
It was such a great moment because it's not just like, oh, let me get the chainsaw started up right away and get my revenge.
Well, he's
she really had to earn it.
Bo is grieving, guys, because she killed Grandma when she ripped that chainsaw out of her hands, and so Bo's just Wolverine scratching her.
And he's got a knife in his hand, so he's
slashing
slicing
her
at her. And
he's not very effective.
No.
But he still goes for it, and the ending shot is Stretch holding the chainsaw over her head and spinning, and then cut to black.
Right.
What do you think of that ending?
You can see in my notes, I just wrote down all caps, holy shit.
Holy shit.
I was, the ending was ridiculous, but I got my chainsaw battle, which I always like. I like a good chainsaw battle in movies.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got a chance to see him use the big boy chainsaw and the dual wielding chainsaws.
I like that Leatherface got a chainsaw through him, but he was like almost chainsaw immune because like that's his strength. So putting a chainsaw through his belly has no effect.
I don't think that Dennis Hopper leveled up enough before he went for the boss.
It was like Pokemon. It's like if you use fire against a fire Pokemon, it's not going to have
it's not
that
effective.
Much effect. So
not effective at all. I like the way that it ended with nothing resolved. Right. Just a primal.
Just that, yeah.
Primal scream. Yeah, Halloween is also a fan of the primal scream ending.
Yeah. I like that ending, though. It's that very kung fu-esque ending where in a lot of kung fu movies, the moment they beat the bad guy, sometimes it's literally they will punch the bad guy in his weak spot, the blood will come out of the bad guy's mouth, and they just freeze frame in that moment the end. That's the only resolution we need. The killers are dead. This lady's gone crazy. What else do you need?
Yeah, no, I'm not really interested in the recovery period for Stretch.
Yeah. That's where things like... I was a big fan of House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, but I'd never seen this movie.
We should definitely do either one or both of those at some point because I'm also a fan.
Both of those movies are basically like pulling super heavily from this movie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I like that when a movie can sort of...
Sorry, yes.
Yes. When a movie can sort of take that schlocky, grindhousey appeal of a movie like Hellraiser and then explore some of the more interesting ideas in the sequel, like with Hellraiser 2. This movie doesn't explore any of the interesting ideas, but its spoofiness level... Like, this movie was definitely a comedy.
It's very creepy, though. I think they did a good job on the creep factor.
Yeah, trading in straight-up horror and suspense for that creep factor was a really bold move, I think. But it really paid off, because this movie is creepy unlike any other creepy movie I've seen. I legit got creeped out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some things definitely didn't work, but I'd rather see a movie go for it the way that Texas Chainsaw Massacre did, and maybe not everything sticks, than have them just be stayed and rehash all the same elements from the first movie. They tried to expand the mythology, but not in a way that's, too much information. Like, I think the way... Even though I like Rob Zombie's movies that you just mentioned, like in Halloween, when they just overdo the backstory on Michael, we still have many questions as to what the deal is with this family, but we've learned just a bit more to make it interesting.
Right.
So, should we move on to our pitches?
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So I kept some elements from the original movie. I decided that my title change for this would be When I Saw You. Get it? Get it?
I like it.
It feels a little bit more rom-com-y. So we have a prologue. So 13 years ago, we have a young woman. She's running through the woods while we hear the revving of a chainsaw. She spots a house, really the house, from Texas Chainsaw. She pounds on the front door, and Bubba Leatherface Sawyer opens the door. He is a big man with unkept curly brown hair and a scraggly beard, but he's clearly handsome and strong. I'm thinking like a Mark Ruffalo type.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of barrel-chested, maybe a little taller. Ooh, or maybe like Vincent D'Onofrio. He could do it. So she demands that he help her, and he nods, but Leatherface is mute, so due to an accident in his childhood, he lets her inside, and on the entryway table there's a notepad, and he writes what happened, and then tears fill her eyes. Meanwhile, a crazed chainsaw-wielding Lefty, also played by Dennis Hopper in this version, runs through the woods screaming, "This is the devil's playground."
Oh, no.
We cut back to Leatherface and the young woman. They're in his pickup truck, and he's driving them to the hospital. Just then, Lefty surprises them by dashing in the middle of the road. Leatherface swerves and hits a tree. He's knocked out, but when he comes to, he gets out of the truck and sees that the young woman has been murdered, and Lefty is nowhere to be seen.
Whoa. Is this like, remember in Matrix Reloaded when Morpheus takes on that Escalade with just the katana? Mm-hmm. Remember he dives out of the way and does that anime thing?
Yeah,
where
I don't
it's
know.
like the truck is coming at him and Dennis Hopper swerves out of the way and like slices through the car and makes it swerve.
It's enough to where Leatherface gets in an accident and he's unable to save the girl, which is the important part.
The anime showdown is always the cool thing.
Yeah, and I definitely, like, like, even though this is a rom-com, it honestly turned out to be a little bit more rom-dram, like dramedy, but yeah, I definitely want it to be scary when he pops out. So the young woman gets killed, and then someone comes out yelling, "Bubba, is that you?" And it's Bo, only he doesn't look creepy. He just looks like he's Leatherface's older brother. You know, he's a stabilizing influence in his life. And he's like, "What happened?" And then we cut to 13 years later. Bo and Leatherface have moved out of their South Texas home and to Dallas to live with their uncle Drayton. Bo believes Leatherface when he says he didn't kill the girl, but doesn't think that the police would believe a couple of rednecks. Right. So that's why they run. And then Leatherface, you know, basically spends most of his time helping around the house and helping Drayton with his award-winning food truck. So in this version of the story, Drayton is their successful uncle. He owns a food truck before it was cool, and for the most part, Leatherface just helps him, and he's still mute in this version. Okay. So the only respite and the only highlight of his day is listening to DJ Stretch, and he really wishes he could call in, but he can't speak. And so he can never make a request, and whenever he tries to get Bo to do it, Bo says he's too shy and to just forget about it.
No, you can't.
Because remember Bo in the first movie, he's like, "I want to make a request, but I'm shy." And even if Bo, and I thought maybe it could be funny if Bo makes a request, but it's not the one Leatherface wants. He requests Ingata de Vita by Iron Butterfly instead. So Leatherface does not forget about Stretch, and we fast forward to Texas OU weekend. Drayton is participating in the chili cook-off, and he asks Leatherface to help. At the chili cook-off, Leatherface sees Stretch, and he knows it's her, even though he's never seen her because there's a banner for the station name. He goes up to her and gives her a note explaining that he can't speak, but he's always wanted to put on a request for Not Fade Away by the Rolling Stones. She reads the note and looks at him, and then they stare at each other, and there's like a chemistry, like an insta-love connection. And he's about to go away, but she's like, "No, wait." And then she uses sign language to ask, "Do you sign?" And it turns out that DJ Stretch knows sign language because her mother was deaf. And so does Leatherface. So they start signing and they're talking and they're vibing. But then Drayton calls Leatherface away and she's like, "Look, I know you can't call in because, well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but do you want to come by the studio sometime to pick something?" So then there's like a whole cute scene between them where he goes down to the station and we get a montage of them picking out albums and dancing and having fun together. And then Stretch asks Leatherface if he would let her cut his hair and give him a shave because he's kind of, you know, he's been through some shit. Like that event 13 years ago was really traumatic. Right. And so he's very unkempt. And then that's when the sexual tension ramps up because she gives him a sexy haircut and he's getting kind of turned on and she's starting to see that without all of the overgrown hair and the scraggly beard, he's really hot.
Right. But is it like the makeover scene in Miss Congeniality?
So yeah, except instead of the woman being the one who's made over, it's Leatherface because he's been beautiful all along, but nobody's been able to see it, you know, because he's just a redneck. He's got low self-esteem, and so she goes in to kiss him because things are getting heated, but then he turns away. And he runs out of because he's afraid to get close to her. And he knows that
she might die.
She might die because of him, because that chainsaw murderer is still out there. So he leaves, and then the next day, Stretch goes to...
Is Lefty involved in any of it? Like, do we see glimpses of him?
I'm getting. I gotcha. So again, like a lot of leaps when it comes to logic in my story too.
No, yeah.
But so Stretch feels really bad. She feels like maybe she was pressuring Leatherface into a relationship way too soon because she's really into him, and you know he's got baggage. So she goes to Drayton's food truck and is like, hey, is Leatherface around? And he's like, no, he's at the house. And he tells her where the house is. As she's going to the house, we pan out and we see that Lefty has been following her. So Lefty follows Stretch back to the house. So similar to the original movie, that's how he figures out where they are.
Oh, boy.
And then we get a cute scene between her and Bo where he's like, what are your intentions with my little brother? Like, you know, he's kind of like trying to figure her out because he's protective of his little brother. It's like, if you hurt him, I'll come after you.
Right.
But, you know, in that cute way that siblings are. And so he's like, oh, he's out in the smokehouse. Because in this version, Leatherface still knows his way around a nice cut of meat.
Speaking of which, I liked how they gave him that little...
the carver?
The carver, like a little mini chainsaw.
He loves saws of all kinds. Baby saws, big saws.
He's got the big one, the tiny one, everyone in between.
The other name I was thinking for this movie, this is going to make you roll your eyes, but I also thought When I Saw You would be more rom-com-y, but the other name I thought of was the Savant.
All right. You picked the right one.
But he is a savant.
He's a savant. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's totally a savant. So she goes to the smokehouse and she apologizes to Leatherface, but then he kind of shakes his head quietly and he goes over to the boombox and skips songs until he gets to This Guy's in Love with You by Herb Alpert. And so that's like his message to her, like, gotcha. I'm in love with you too. And then they have a slow dance. So again, I'm borrowing a lot of elements from the original movie, but turning them into rom-com things. Yes. They slow dance and she says something like, I know, it's too soon, but I feel the same way about you. You're good, Leatherface. You're really,
His name is still Leatherface?
Good. His parents are hippie. He's Bubba Leatherface Sawyer is his official character name. But then their bliss is interrupted by the revving of a chainsaw.
No!
Yeah, because Lefty followed them.
And so Lefty isn't a cop, he's just a crazy killer?
He's a crazy killer.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's been wanting to pin it on these rednecks.
Right.
And so Bo screams for help. Leatherface grabs his own chainsaw, and then he still faces off with Lefty chainsaw to chainsaw, but then he also directs Bo to stand by Stretch to protect her from Lefty, and she convinces Bo to call the police because she says, I can be his alibi, he's not going to get in trouble. They call the police arrest both Lefty and Leatherface, but the movie ends in, like, it has a happy ending because Leatherface gets released. They have an alibi for one of the murder nights because he was with Stretch.
Gotcha.
And then it ends with them, sharing a romantic kiss. I originally didn't put any dinner scenes in there, but I think now instead I would have it end at the Sawyer dinner table with Grandpa and Drayton and Bo, and then Stretch has joined the family. Roll credits.
I like it. That's really good. Yeah, it's really hard to take something like this crazy and sort of
turn it into a heartwarming family story.
Yeah, but that was really good. I have just a few, I don't have a full-on movie like you do, but I've got a few little things that maybe could be well, probably not. But do you want to hear my take on a rom-com?
Absolutely.
Mine is called, I went with more of the Texas theme for the title. So I went with Heart of Texas is the name of the movie. That's got to already be a movie, right?
Well, there is a Texas rom-com with Sandy again. I think it's called Hope Floats, if I recall correctly.
Well, the guy who wrote Texas Chainsaw 2 wrote Paris, Texas.
Oh, that's right.
So I was going to call my movie I Left My Heart in Paris, Texas. But I just decided to go with the more simpler, streamlined Heart of Texas.
I like it.
In my version, Leatherface starts out as a bad guy, and he's a like a liquor store robber, and he wears an old timey football like from the 1940s, a football with like a Batman style mask cut out of it. So he wears this leather. Don't they call them leatherheads? In remember?
I guess
Wasn't that a George Clooney movie, Leatherheads?
I didn't see it. I'm categorically not a fan of most sports movies, except for Remember the Titans, which is legitimately a really good movie. Oh, and Coach Carter is also a good movie.
You got to see. Have you seen Mr. Baseball?
You told me about Mr. Baseball.
Sonia's my wife is a big fan of Mr. Baseball. It is a really good movie.
I really do need to see Mr. Baseball.
And it's a really nice rom-com. So if I ever get to pick, maybe that's one movie I'll pick.
Yeah, I would be into that.
So he wears this like football thing, and his brother Chop Top wears like one of those old-timey football helmets, but it's backwards, and like there's these really weird eye holes cut out. And
this is a rom-com?
Yep. And they go to rob liquor stores, and Lefty is the guy who's searching for them. So he's sort of the cop on the case. Thing is, both Leatherface and Lefty, in mine, I guess Leatherface can talk, but in mine, they both call Stretch to request songs, and they're both frequent callers, and they both kind of are communicating to each other through the songs, kind of like you have in yours, where they use the songs to communicate. So in the beginning scene, as Lefty is going through one of the older crime scenes, he calls in and requests For Those About to Rock by AC/DC. And so we get this nice little scene of Lefty sort of examining a crime scene, and then the Leatherface and his brother getting ready to go commit a crime. And then when they actually go to commit the crime, Lefty gets a call, and he's like, there's a crime in progress. We think it's your boys. Come on down and get them. And so he's got to sort of drive fast, and then they have this sort of like, not a meet cute, but you know that thing that happens in movies like this where like as Lefty's pulling up, the bad guys are pulling away, and it's like, oh, they just missed each other. It's in Halloween too, right?
Yeah.
That happens a lot where it's like, oh, they just missed each other. And for that song, I'm going to choose Rob Zombie's Never Gonna Stop.
Oh, so this takes place in modern times?
Yeah. It's like one of those movies where it doesn't really matter what time, but they do have cell phones, I guess, that they can call in. So the first act is basically them. We see the abusive family. Leatherface is part of an abusive family. We see Lefty being all alone. He's alone, and he's drinking, and he's sad. And we see Stretch hanging with her friends and sort of her aspirations to be more. The second act takes place when Stretch goes to a liquor store to buy some liquor for one of her parties, and she gets kidnapped by Leatherface. And Lefty follows them, just like he does in the movie. He follows them, and then it becomes an extended chase sequence, and then it becomes a hostage scenario. So as Lefty is trying to communicate to Leatherface, they have these walkies, and they're communicating, and there's songs in the background, and the songs are subtly influencing each other, and slowly over the course of the movie...
Like a mashup?
Right. And then, slowly over the course of the movie, Lefty and Leatherface realize we're the two guys who have been calling in and sort of having this conversation.
This is Lefty and Leatherface's love story?
Yes, this is Lefty and Leatherface's love story.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So then...
heteronormative ideas be damned.
So then... Lefty had to call the cops for backup and stuff, but the cops come in.
It's like a You Got Mail scenario.
I've never seen that movie, I'll have to.
They hate each other in real life, but online they love each other.
Oh, it's just like that. Yes, This is You've Got Mail, but with chainsaws instead, I guess.
And men.
So the cops come in, and the cops are basically like, we just want to go in there and kill everyone. We don't even care about saving the girl because she's probably already dead anyway. So they're like your typical bad guy SWAT cops.
The cops in your stories are very unreliable.
Oh, yeah. Cops are wrong. I don't know if you've seen the news lately, but cops are pretty unreliable. So that's where I'm pulling from. But Lefty helps Leatherface and his brother escape.
When he finds out that Leatherface is the one?
Right. But he tells them that they should go to this place to hide, and he'll meet them there. So after they escape, Lefty goes to that place, and they're not there. So he feels betrayed. But then the cops show up. The cops followed Lefty. And so it's a good thing that they didn't go there. And
But does Leatherface think that Lefty betrayed him?
Yes, he does.
No, Leatherface, no.
No,
he
so
loves
this is like the breakup scene of the movie almost. You know, there's always that breakup scene before the big, like with Benjamin Bratt when he leaves and betrays.
Right.
Gracie.
I was more thrown by Michael Caine leaving. I felt like that was the deeper betrayal. But then you get that nice scene with the girls. Anyways, I digress.
And I liked it later when she's like, "It's the crown," and he's like, "Yes, it's the crown."
Oh, like
Visualize
he now
it.
thinks that
like,
she's gonna win.
Yeah.
That was
such a great little scene. But so the cops stake out every liquor store in this small town, and they're ready to like shoot to kill. But where do Leatherface and Chop Top go? They go to the radio station. Ooh. And they play the Iron Butterfly song on the radio. And that's when Lefty knows, wait a minute, I know where my boy went.
That's their song?
Yeah,
their song
that's their song.
Isn't the riff for that song like...
So that's going to be
their love song.
That's their love song. They're going to make some sweet, sweet loves to that song. So, in the movie, Lefty and Leatherface end up running away together. They leave this life of crime.
Beautiful.
And they leave the life of law, life of justice, life of crime. Chop Top goes to jail, but he gets away on probation because it's clearly the uncle dad who's in charge of everything.
I hope the next rom-com is about Chop Top. You know, like, a lot of times these things continue. So then, Stretch agrees to give Chop Top a job when he gets released on probation. Her and Chop Top?
Well, they're not a thing, but it's
like suggesting
maybe for a sequel.
Ooh.
And then the dad, the abusive uncle dad, goes to rob a liquor store, and when the cops see him go in, they're all like, "Yeah, the moment he comes out, we're gonna gun him down like Butch Cassidy and Sundance, right?"
Right.
But it takes too long for the dad to come out, and then when they go in, they find him just having drunk a bunch of liquor and passed out. So the cops don't get to shoot their guy; they have to arrest him. But he goes to jail for a long time.
Right.
So, but that's the heart of Texas, which is playing up more on the musical elements of Texas Chainsaw.
I like it. I like that both of us took the music angle and ran with it. I felt like they didn't use it as much in the actual movie. Like it seemed more just she only worked at the radio station for the purpose of recording the murders. Right,
which was a cool thing, but it was really weird that they wanted to air a snuff tape live.
That should be illegal. Wouldn't that, like, I would assume that that's illegal.
One of the songs that they play, though, is called Get Away with Murder Out Here.
Oh.
So I did like how they did kind of use it. They used it a little bit.
So should we talk about who our crushes were from this movie?
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so my crush is definitely Chop Top.
Me too.
He was the best character. I'm sorry, Leatherface. Like, even though Leatherface was the focus of my pitch, which is very consciously inspired by a book called Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. So, like, I wanted to run with the mute theme that he's, you know, a sexy, damaged young man.
Right.
But from the actual movie, I feel like Chop Top was full of life and charisma. Like, he had so many good, like, props.
Yeah, he's using dead bodies as, like...
ventriloquist dummies.
I really liked, that opening scene where we first meet him for the first time. It was more just, like... I would love to have a moment where I create a scene in a movie where it's just let an actor go loose. Because I don't know how much of that was written and how much of it was planned and how much of it Bill Moseley sort of improvised.
That's the actor's name, Bill Moseley?
Yeah.
He is so good in this part. And
he's so good.
he looks like he's having so much fun. Like, I didn't do as much research on the production of this movie. I know that the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was apparently a bitch to film.
Right.
And everybody hated just the act of filming it. But I can't think that Bill Moseley was having anything but the best of times while playing this character.
Yeah, if I had to choose one of those stories, I would choose the happy story for this movie. Cause this movie seems like maybe a little bit of a bigger budget, and it definitely seems like they had more time to do more of what they wanted. But luckily for us, what they wanted to do was basically just goof off for 90 minutes.
Oh, they definitely succeeded in that regard.
Yeah. So yeah, my crush, my Texas Chainsaw crush is going to be Chop Top too. That character, man.
He's dreamy.
Yeah, he's super dreamy. And I love the exit sign. The
goodbye. Yeah.
Goodbye. Yeah, okay, goodbye. Time to leave now. Goodbye. Goodbye. Like, it was so good.
Yeah, I thought, he was really great in that scene. And such a creep.
Yes.
So should we get into our recommendations?
Oh, yeah. I almost completely forgot.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So my wife is away in Costa Rica right now, but that doesn't mean we still can't watch movies together. And so one of the movies that we watched while she was in Costa Rica via our iTunes, we both... Okay, we got our little text messages. I had my popcorn already and stuff. One of the movies we watched was Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Now,
is that the new Mission Impossible?
That's the 5th one, so it's the second newest. We watched the newest one, Fallout, semi-recently.
Or was that only one of the Mission movies?
No, you're thinking John Woo. That was
John
number 2.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Mission Impossible fan. I think it's by far the best action movie franchise out there. I love Tom Cruise. I think he's a great actor.
Ageless.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe he's over 50 years old doing some of those stunts that he's doing. That's crazy.
And famous for doing them all himself.
Right, which is even more crazy. But yeah, so I recommend both Rogue Nation and Fallout. I think they're both really good movies. I think Rogue Nation was a little bit more troubled and rushed of a production, and that shows. But there's like the motorcycle chase scene in that movie is freaking nuts. The opera sequence is really good. And then Fallout is kind of the better movie all around because Christopher McQuarrie got to actually play a little bit more and got to do more, like played more towards his strengths as a writer and director. I think 6 is the stronger movie, but 5 is still a hell of a fun time. And I can't wait to see what they do with the franchise next. Although they had a really good streak going where they would bring in these cool directors, right? Brian De Palma, John Woo, J.J. Abrams, Brad Bird, Christopher McQuarrie. And now Christopher McQuarrie got to do 2 Mission Impossibles. Now he's doing 7 and possibly 8 that are going to shoot.
These missions are very possible for him.
So I don't know. Like if I had to like fanboy out for a second and like dream cast my perfect director for the next Mission Impossible
who would
movie,
you want? Yes,
I would love if they rebooted the franchise tonally to go away from that crazy the world is at stake. There's like 100 crazy stunts that you have to do. I would love if they sort of brought it down to the more nitty-gritty tradecraft of spy elements and stories. I would love to see a Michael Mann directed Mission Impossible, because I think Michael Mann needs Mission Impossible just as much as Mission Impossible needs a big name director to keep the blood of the franchise fresh. Because
I could see Michael Mann being that guy.
Yeah, with Christopher McQuarrie, you're going to start to, some of those Mission Impossibles have now started from 4 to 6. They got that little bit of the samey vibe. They feel a little bit samey. And I really want someone to come in and kind of shake things up. but without like having to reboot it in a traditional sense. And
Right, like I don't want a new person. I like Tom Cruise.
Yeah. So I think Mission Impossible, and I mean, you know, he's done Heat, he's done Collateral, he's done Public Enemies, Black Hat.
Love Collateral.
Yeah, Collateral's so good. So if we could have a Collateral type, more intimate mission with Ethan Hunt, with Michael Mann at the helm, oh, come on, man, that would be so good.
I can see it.
But that's my recommendation. Is really any of the Mission Impossibles, but I guess 5 and 6. Give them a watch if you haven't seen them.
I like that once I guess it's no longer numbered. We've got descriptive titles. They sound like Call of Duty games.
Well, okay, one of the big things that bugs me about Fallout is you have 4 is called Ghost Protocol, which is probably like 2 of the greatest words ever muttered.
Again, they sound like first-person shooters.
Ghost Protocol is like the coolest thing in any action movie. Ghost Protocol. It's such spy mumbo jumbo, but it makes sense. He's been disavowed, but he's still working for the IMF because
he got his bird notice?
Yeah, his mission is you're technically not part of our organization anymore, but you got to go on this secret mission. So he's working for them, but he's not working for them. The second one, Rogue Nation, is really good because it's like, okay, we got all these rogues forming a nation of killers. Why not call the 6th movie Maximum Fallout, right? You have Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Maximum Fallout. Stay with the 2-word motif and stay with that heightened mumbo jumbo motif. I don't know.
I'm into it.
That's my nitpick for Fallout.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
How about you? What movie are you going to recommend to our lovely listeners?
I've got 2 recommendations. For movie, I was thinking about other My Fair Lady variations that I've seen.
Yeah.
There are a lot of movies where people go through makeovers or transformations. I think that one of the best ones out there, and it's your choice as for which version you'd like to watch, but it's La Femme Nikita.
Oh, yeah.
So there's multiple versions of this story. There is a French movie, which I think is the best one. There's an American movie with Bridget Fonda called Point of No Return.
Right.
And then there's also a show called La Femme Nikita. And the theme is that this woman is just a street punk. She's a drug addict. She gets taken by this secret organization and put in the responsibility of a handler who teaches her how to be an assassin as well as a seductress. On the way, falls in love with her but can't be with her. And then after she's gone through this transformation into the ultimate sexy killer lady, she leaves the organization and goes off on her own. I think it's a really cool story, a really different sort of Pygmalion story because she's not being trained to be the perfect society lady. She's being trained to be a killer.
Right.
And so there's some really fun action scenes and sequences. And I think that if you have to choose what among the best Pygmalion or My Fair Lady stories, I would put that one near the top.
And without La Femme Nikita, we wouldn't have The Professional.
That's
right?
absolutely true.
And Jean Reno is in the first Mission Impossible. And
there's some degrees of separation there.
And Maggie Q, who plays the televised version of Nikita, is in Mission Impossible 3.
That's also true.
So there you go.
There's some crossovers there. My other recommendation, I was thinking about other kind of underdog stories that I really like. And I think that while some of the stuff in Miss Congeniality is really dated, there is an online webcomic called Let's Play that is an underdog story, which I think is very much of our time in terms of culture. But I think it's a really good story. It's free to read online on Webtoons, But the story is like this. So kind of like Gracie, the heroine is an underdog. She's really passionate about her career, but she has terrible social anxiety. And the comic, I think, does a really fun job of visually portraying her social anxiety.
What's her career? Did you say that?
Oh, not yet.
Okay.
So she's her passion is video games. She wants to create a video game. So she creates this free to play RPG puzzler, and a famous live streamer plays her game, but he doesn't read any of her instructions, and he plays it like it's like a hack and slash, like God of War or something. And because he plays the game wrong, he says this game sucks, this game's awful, and all of his followers then just form like a troll army, and then they dox her game online and give it like a really low score. Oh, no. Even though they've never played the game, they're just fans of this live streamer.
Right.
And so she's basically been like harassed online because of this terrible review. And instead of just laying down and thinking like, oh, my life is over, she starts to take things into her own hands and find like a little bit more agency to advance her video game career. And then she has a nice group of friends that are really supportive. But here's the kicker. We find out that the live streamer who panned her game has just moved into her apartment complex and is her next door neighbor.
Whoa.
And that's how it starts.
Nice.
The series went on hiatus for a while, but they're, I think, coming back at the beginning of August, so now's a good time to catch up before the new season.
Very nice. And what's that called again? Let's Play?
Yeah, Let's Play, and it's on Webtoons.
Webtoons, got it. All right.
All right. Well, join us next time when we are going to be doing Hostages. Romance.
Well, hostage movies. Not the movie Hostages with Bruce Willis.
Okay, that's true. Not the movie Hostages. But the theme of the next episode is going to be abduction, hostages, because it is surprisingly enough a common theme in both horror and rom-coms. Bret has chosen the movie and I will be choosing The Princess Bride.
Whoa!
The best abduction romance of all time.
Yeah, one of the best movies of all time.
Yes. Well, goodbye.
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 No, I think we can end now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Necromancer is produced by Brett Dorman and Shira Moore. The theme song is Symphonia 3 by Kevin MacLeod on the album Oddities.